Hi AP class. I'm back already. I'm going to do this next one. Hopefully I'll do a little bit better than the last one. Well, I don't know. It's not going to be perfect. But anyway, we've got the area between two curves today. And I guess before we were looking between a curve and the x-axis. Now what if I wanted to find the area that exists between the two curves? So, if I wanted to say start at some place A, x-coordinate A, and then I wanted to end at some other coordinate, let's say B, let's call it right here, B, and I would find the area between the two curves, which I will shade in. This area plus this area is the area between the two curves. Now, before I really get started on this, I should review something that you might already know, like we did this in geometry. Recall the distance between 2 points on the number line, x1 and x2. So we would always say that distance is equal to, just subtract that, x2 minus x1. Suppose you didn't know which one was bigger, so you just say, oh, it's always an absolute value. You always do that. So if I said this one's at -2 and this one's at 5, then that would equal the absolute value of 5 minus -2. So that equals the absolute value of 7. So that's good. And if you got them backwards, that would be the same, the absolute value of -2 minus 5, which is the absolute value of -7. And these two things are equal. They're both equal to 7. So that's what we're going to think about doing and setting it up with the absolute value. We'll always do that in AP Calculus because that's going to save us points. Save us some points on the AP Calculus test for sure. We set this up. So let's write the area between the curves. Between f of x and g of x on the closed interval from A to B is given by area equals the integral from A to B of the difference of these two functions. The absolute value of the difference of the two functions. And that's basically the idea. Now, what we're really doing is we're subtracting the output. So we're saying, like, if we want to look at the output of f and subtract off the output of g, we're basically looking at the distance between these 2 points on the number line. This is f of, let's call this x1. So f of x1, and right here would be g of x1, and the distance between those would be just f of x1 minus g of x1. That would be the distance between them. The absolute value, in case I got them upside down, which is going to be important because after this point they do switch places. So if I didn't have the absolute value, then it would be giving me a negative number over here. This is going to give me the positive. So that's basically the idea when I set up the area between the two curves. Now, if I want to do this by hand, I'm going to need to find that point, because I'm going to have to say that in this case f of x is greater than g of x. So that's the integral from a to c of f of x minus g of x dx. And I'm getting rid of the absolute value because if I do it by hand, I can't do that. I just have to know if this is going to be positive or negative. And then I'm going to say, well, now I've got it the other way around. So I usually just go, that would be plus the integral from c to b, this part right here, of g of x minus f of x. Because in this case, the g of x function is greater than the f of x function. So that's how I could rewrite this equation, or this area, without absolute values. So if I was going to do it on the calculator, I would definitely set up my y1 and my y2, and then I would set up a y3 to be the absolute value of the difference. So let me just do that. The calculator setup would be like y1 equals, and then you plug in f of x. And then y2, that equals g of x. You just plug those things in. Then you're going to make a y3, and you're going to say that's the absolute value. Find the absolute value key on your calculator, just so you know. It is under math, of course. And then if you go to number, it's usually the first one there. Oops, math. The math key, then number is right there, absolute value. So then you would say, oh, okay, the absolute value of y1 minus y2. Oh yeah, that's kind of not that easy to do. Let me just set this up. So y3, I would say math, absolute value. And then we have to get y1 and y2. So remember, that's kind of like this button here, vars. So vars, it's actually y vars and functions. Okay, you get into there. There's y1. Enter minus, and then you do the same thing. Vars, y vars, function, y2. Enter. I think there's a shorter way to do that on the newer calculators, but that's how you do it. So you'd set that up, and then you're going to calculate (7), which is the integral of f of x dx. And you're going to say, you're going to make sure that you're looking at y3. So if you have other functions here, you may want to make sure that that equal sign is hidden, is highlighted, and those are not highlighted, and so you'd have your graph. Then you would enter your limits. And it will go ahead and do that. You might just graph that, and you'll see that it'll bump all of that stuff and be positive. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about today. I'm not really going to do an example. I'm just going to give you that. You also have the con videos you could look at. Anyway, I hope this helps. Let me know if it doesn't. Have a great day.